Hello, everyone. My name is Darla Saunders, and on behalf of the Atlantic Salmon Conservation Foundation and the Canadian Rivers Institute, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar. This series is made possible in part thanks to the contributions of the Government of Canada. For today's webinar, we're extremely fortunate to be hosting Denny Isaac. Denny Isaac is the Aquatic Research Director for the Gaspésiwag Mi'kmaq Resource Council. He was born in Listigouche, Quebec, where he currently resides with his spouse, raising their 2-year-old daughter and newborn son. When Denny isn't home, he's working. He works on behalf of the communities of Ile River Bar, Listigouche, and Pabineau in managing numerous aquatic research projects and serving as a technical body. In his work, Denny emphasizes the value and importance of Mi'kmaq ecological knowledge to balance Western science. To date, Denny has been focusing his research on American eel and observing critical habitat. After the presentation, we're going to open the floor for a question and answer session. You'll have the option of asking questions directly using your microphone. Type them in and we'll read them aloud. I'm now going to turn the webinar over to Denny.
Thank you, Darla. So my name is Denny Isaac, and I'm the Aquatic Research Director at the Gaspésiwag Mi'kmaq Resource Council. And I'd like to say good afternoon, everyone, and thank Darla and Michelle for allowing me to speak today. So my presentation today is going to be on, it's called the Learn Through Experience, and I'm going to talk about the educational activities that the GMRC has conducted in our member communities on Atlantic salmon. So a brief outline of today's presentation. I'm going to introduce the salmon curriculum, discuss some lessons learned, and the next steps. But first, I'm going to briefly introduce the GMRC. Then after I introduce the curriculum, I'm going to talk about the Fish Friends program, introduce it, discuss some lessons learned, and then discuss some next steps. So the Gaspésiwag Mi'kmaq Resource Council, we're an Aboriginal nonprofit organization. We focus on aquatic research in support of aquatic resource management. We're a small organization that employs 5 full-time staff members, and we're governed by a board of directors. Our member communities include Ile River Bar, Listigouche, and Pabineau. So here's a map. I just put a map to show the distribution of our member communities. We got Listigouche on the Quebec side, and then our 2 New Brunswick communities, Okapikanjik, or Ile River Bar, and Pabineau First Nation. So we're also considered an interprovincial organization. So the GMRC, I'm going to briefly discuss some of our work. So we always conduct research, and our research projects focus on gathering Mi'kmaq knowledge, and we use Mi'kmaq knowledge in all of our research. We conduct environmental assessments, and we use it in resource management to make resource management decisions. And as my introduction stated, that we're always aiming to connect both Mi'kmaq and Western science worldviews and implement those both worldviews into all of our work. We also work with a number of species at risk. We target culturally significant species that are listed by COSWIC as special concern, threatened, or endangered. Currently, I'm working with American eel and identifying critical habitat in the Restigouche and Ile River watersheds, mainly in the estuaries. And we have other educational projects where we target striped bass and Atlantic salmon. We do environmental contaminant testing, where we examine the level of environmental contaminants in traditional food sources, and we make recommendations on monthly intakes. And in the past, we studied lobster in the Ile River Bar's food fishery, moose in the Pabineau's fall harvest, and Atlantic salmon from the Restigouche River. But today, I'm going to focus my presentation on our educational and outreach activities, and namely the Fish Friends program and the salmon curriculum. So the salmon curriculum is our working title, but the actual title is the Calling Back to Salmon, a culturally responsive curriculum on Belamu and Belamu fishing practices. And the purpose of the program is to enrich the students' learning experience about Atlantic salmon and various fishing practices. Our target school for the curriculum is the Alexis School, which is located in Listigouche. And it's home to a majority of Mi'kmaq students, and the grades range from nursery to grade 8. And we also, for this curriculum, we use the Restigouche River as our base river. So this curriculum is adapted to these students in this particular school. So the objectives include engaging students and learning opportunities about the importance of salmon, their habitat, and the various individuals who are committed in protecting this resource. Through hands-on learning, we aim to bring together traditional knowledge and science material together. As I mentioned before, it's something we always strive to in the GMRC. So, Mi'kmaq history has shown that we learn through stories and oral teachings, and these are normally passed down from generation to generation. So from elders to youth, and we try to bring on the hands-on learning experience by inviting community members into the curriculum itself to deliver some of the lesson plans. And the students actually have an opportunity to go out on site and experience some of the fishing activities if they're not already experienced in that, because a lot of our students in the Alexo-Gippo School are very familiar with salmon fishing, and because it's a very important activity in our community. So it's important that we have local harvesters assist us with the curriculum, because some of the teachers are non-Mi'kmaq, so they don't have the capacity to share the teachings or the experience of working with. They don't have the Mi'kmaq knowledge. So of course there's a deeper meaning to this knowledge. That's not the focus of my presentation today, but I recommend everyone Google Dr. Al Marshall and the two-eyed seeing concept. It's a very interesting concept, and that's something that the GMRC is trying to accomplish. So I'll give a brief history of the salmon curriculum. In 2009, 2010, it was first drafted. This was done, of course, with the support of the Fish Education Directorate and the Alexo-Gippo School. Then it was developed by Marcia Vicaire under project funded by the Atlantic Salmon Conservation Foundation. But soon after version 1 was completed, there was change in management at the GRMC, so this prevented us from developing the curriculum any further. So in 2011, that's where I picked up the file, the salmon curriculum, and I reviewed the file, and I identified that there was recommendations made by Marcia Vicaire. So we took the file to the next step, and we met with the AGS school, the principal, Jeff Grass, and we discussed what can we do to take this salmon curriculum and put into the school. So a letter of support came from the AGS, and we proceeded with a funding proposal to the Atlantic Salmon Conservation Foundation. And then in 2012-13 year, we came out with version 2. So version 2 made all the recommendations based off of Marcia Vicaire, and it was also translated into French. So we now have an English version and a French version. Both versions were peer-reviewed by the Atlantic Salmon Federation, the Rescue River Watershed Management Council, and the Atlantic Salmon Conservation Foundation. Now we're into the next steps of the project. I recently presented the salmon curriculum to the AGS teaching staff during a recent professional development workshop, and I'll discuss later in my presentation some of the next steps with the salmon curriculum. So there's a total of 7 lessons in the curriculum, and the activities in this curriculum are designed to supplement traditional science lessons and guide students in discovering the science and history of Atlantic salmon in their community, so Alisfish and surrounding areas. Each lesson is designed for students of grades 7 and 8. The academic focus is on core activities is on science, the holistic nature of indigenous learning, and it also incorporates aspects of other various topics such as biology, environmental studies, cultural traditions, language arts, and social studies and technology. So I won't go into each lesson, but here is the lesson and each objective of the lessons. Lesson 1, student dialogue session. Engage in a culturally relevant dialogue with community members regarding Atlantic salmon and salmon fishing practices. So here is where the community members with the traditional knowledge would be a big help. Lesson number 2, we talk about the life cycle of salmon, and then the lessons identify the physiological requirements and characteristics related to the different stages of the salmon in their life cycle. Lesson 3 is on the salmon migration. We explain the salmon migration and identify the relationship between salmon and their habitat. Lesson 4, salmon anatomy, identify the main parts of the salmon. And then lesson 5, there's a dialogue session. This is where we go more in depth with the history of salmon and its relationship with the Mi'kmaq people. And again, this is where we have community volunteers, community harvesters, and elders coming in to work with the teachers in this lesson. Then lesson 6 is the student exploration. Here is where students get to go onto the field and actually observe traditional salmon fishing practices and work with other types of resource groups on the watershed that are doing conservation activities. And then lesson 7 is the students get to prepare and present a public presentation based on the knowledge that they required in the curriculum. So the lessons, each lesson is broken down to the following subject areas: rationale, learning objectives, there's suggestions and preparations that teachers need to take for each lesson, the required material resources or supplies, and the subject areas that each lesson will cover. So, for example, art, social studies, science, and then they have a vocabulary with all the definitions. There's an instructional plan, and then suggestions for assessments or how to grade the students. Going back, it's important to mention that the GMRC recommends to each teacher that they review each lesson carefully, and they make the recommendations on how much time to allocate to each lesson. And they can, it's a fluid document that they can actually make changes if they see that something's going to work better. So we're very open to working with those various teachers that are going to take the curriculum on. So next steps, this is where we're at right now. The role of the Lexington Capable School is to have all the teachers, grade 7 and 8 English, French, science teachers, to review the curriculum, make recommendations to myself, and then they're going to design a plan for its implementation. And they're in charge of preparing all materials for lessons, along with the resource materials. And they're going to set a date for its implementation. Our role at the GMRC is to provide technical assistance to the teachers in developing all the resource materials. We can identify the community elders or guest speakers that are going to come in and assist with some of the lessons. We're going to do some graphic design work on the document to kind of highlight the document more and make it more friendly to the eyes. And then at the end, once the document has been ready to be implemented into the AGS school, we're going to present the document to the community of Lissaguj. So there's no set launch date yet. So these are our next steps. So although the curriculum hasn't been used yet in the AGS school, there's not a lot of lessons learned. But there's one important thing I can stress, I guess, is the gain the teachers' interest. It's critical for teachers to be interested in the project. If not, then they won't use the curriculum. So although they didn't have a role in its development, they're encouraged to review the document and work with the GMRC to make the changes that best suits them. Here's where I lucked out, because the AGS is currently introducing a new style of teaching where part of their day is involved in learning within the environment. So they take the students out of the classroom into the environment setting, and then that's where they learn outdoors. So this is perfect for the curriculum because that fits that style of teaching. So now I'm going to talk about the Fish Friends program. For those of you who aren't familiar with the program, the Fish Friends program is an educational program on fish and conservation for elementary grades, so grades 4, 5, and 6. It was initiated by the Atlantic Salmon Federation, and we work with the New Brunswick Salmon Council, who assists us with delivering the Fish Friends program. We work with Roland Lavallee. He's a volunteer for the New Brunswick Salmon Council, and he's been a big help in the project. So the program provides a fun hands-on learning program on Atlantic salmon, where students take wild Atlantic salmon eggs, grow them to the fry stage in the classroom, where then they take them back to their home river system. And the program has its own curriculum, which is different from the curriculum I just presented. This is the Fish Friends curriculum, and it comes with the program, and you can obtain the curriculum from the NB Salmon Council. So the process, we received eyed eggs from the local hatchery spring. We get our eggs from the Charlotte Salmonoid Hansen Center, and for the past 2 years, we've been using the Pisquet broodstock. Then we transfer the eggs from the hatchery to the classroom, and we place them in a tank. The tank has a chiller, and we set up we try to simulate the habitat. We put some rocks in there, and we'll cover it with styrofoam. This is where the lessons of the Fish Friends curriculum begin. Teachers can pick and choose kind of what lessons they want to take from the Fish Friends curriculum. And this is also where the water temperature is regulated. The temperature is controlled to ensure that the eggs don't hatch too early, or to keep the ideal temperature to keep the fish alive. So after the temperature rises to around 10 to 12 degrees, or 450 degree days, the eggs hatch. And this occurs around May. So when the eggs hatch, they're at the alvin stage where they have a yolk sac, so there's no food requirements needed so that the fish survive on their yolk sac. And I also forgot to mention that the GMRC also brings in guest speakers during the process to teach the students about the traditional aspects, and also we bring in salmon experts to educate the students on top of the Fish Friend curriculum activities. So after the yolk sac's all eaten up, the fish turn to the fry stage. We try not to feed them, but there is some feeding required to keep them alive, but it's always best to put them in the wild and let them fend for themselves. So we always release the fish back into a safe location, and here we put it back into the Nipisiguit River. We always try to put the fish back into the river we took the broodstock from, so the Nipisiguit River, and this occurs in June. And here's just a picture of the front page of the curriculum. It can be downloaded at the link here, but if you Google the Fish Friends curriculum, I believe you can find it, or if you visit the New Brunswick Salmon Council's website. So the GMRC has a total of 6 tanks, 2 in each of the following schools. We work with the Terry Fox Elementary School, which is in Bathurst, New Brunswick, in the grade 3 English and French classrooms. The L.E. Rainsborough School in Dalhousie, New Brunswick, grade 5 English and French, and the Alexis Gippou School, Liscage, which is located in Liscage, the grade 5 in English and French classrooms. Sorry. The reason why we chose these 3 schools is because these 3 schools have students that come from our member communities. So Bathurst has Papineau students, L.E. Rainsborough has the Ile River Bar students, and Alexis Gippou, of course, is in Liscage. So what's great about the program is that it's shown a lot of interest, and there's actually other schools that are interested. There's an alternative education program that is interested in taking on the program, and that's located in Liscage as well. So some lessons learned. We've successfully delivered the project in the past 2 years. But I believe there was over 70 students involved from all 3 schools, and last year we released a total of 900 fry. And so some lessons learned: volunteers make the project a success. One in the picture here, you see Roland Lavallée. I had mentioned he's a volunteer with the New Brunswick Salmon Council. He's been a huge help in the project. Without Roland, the GMRC would not be able to get the project off the ground. He was very helpful in planning, initiating, and delivering the project. He provided food for the fish and assisted in repairing the chillers and delivering the curriculum. He's been shadowing one of our employees, Jessica Gideon, in delivering the Fish Friends program. So when Roland finally retires, and I emphasize finally because Roland is already a retired teacher, and he's been volunteering for so many years, so he's been a big help. But he's been shadowing Jessica, so when he does retire, that this program will continue and the GMRC can continue delivering the project. And again, other volunteers are critical: Mi'kmaq knowledge holders, local elders, harvesters, and technical experts, mainly individuals who are involved in salmon recovery activities on the local watershed. Another lesson learned is to have a backup plan. Chillers is what keeps the water cool. They tend to break down. So it's always key to have a backup chiller. This ensures the survival of the fish. Unfortunately, though, chillers are expensive. They range anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 price range, and of course, it depends on the size of the chiller, the initial use for it, and who you're buying it from. But it's always important to have a backup plan, because if a chiller breaks, you have a risk of your water getting too hot and killing off all your fish. Another lesson learned is to plan a safe environment for the fry release. You're taking a large number of students out to a body of water, so it's important that you set some ground rules before going on site to ensure that all students are safe. And also, we try to put the fish in an area of known fry habitat based on previous studies, but if not, we try to choose an easy, accessible spot, a safe location. And we always try to keep the temperature within 4 degrees difference between where the fish tank water and the stream water. This is to ensure that we don't shock the fish. And it's more critical when you're going from a colder water to warmer water. This is where it becomes more dangerous for the fish. So we try to keep it within the 4-degree difference. Another lesson learned is early coordination with schools. Eggs have to be, the fry have to be released before school ends. We ran into a situation where the fry release was occurring in June, but the students were getting out of school at the last week. Luckily, it went well. It worked out. We were on time, but it's good to have early coordination with the schools. So speak with the schools, look at their agenda, and find out when their school gets out. And to give you an example, we worked at the Terry Fox Elementary, who had a policy that they weren't allowed to take students out on the field on their last week of school. Luckily, we pushed the fish friends earlier, and we didn't have any issues there, but it's something to consider when delivering this types of programs. So next steps, we're planning to reach out into new classrooms and other schools. Of course, we're going to take on what we can manage, as it could become overwhelming if you take on too many projects at a time or too many schools. And we plan to use broodstock from other rivers. For the past 2 years, we've been doing the Nipisquit River broodstock, so we want to focus our efforts into the Restigouche River and the Eel River, so that way a student from Restigouche is growing salmon that comes from the Restigouche River versus the Nipisquit River. And same with the Eel River Bar students who are growing fish that come from the Eel River Bar River versus the Nipisquit River. Scotty boxes, I put a question mark here because I'm unfamiliar with Scotty boxes. I've just heard about them recently, but I heard that they're very useful and a cheap way to incubate salmon. Right here, the picture in this slide is a picture of a Scotty box and how they look. So we're planning to explore the use of Scotty boxes both on the field and in the classroom setting. And then finally, another next step is to evaluate the effectiveness of our program. We've been delivering the Fish Friends program for 2 years, and we've also been delivering numerous educational activities. So we've never actually evaluated the success of our educational projects. So what we're trying to do is to measure the success of our outreach materials and educational programs and how effective they are at delivering the message. So this is important because the GMRC, we invest a lot of money and time into developing these activities. So we need to ensure that we're making good investments. So that's it for my presentation, everyone. I hope I didn't rush to it too fast, but if you guys have time, you can like us on Facebook, and you can check out our website. And I believe there's time to take some questions.
Yes, there is. Denny, thank you so much. That was terrific. So as Denny said, we'd now like to open the floor to questions. So to ask a question, you can use your webinar control panel, which is the little gray box you should be seeing in your upper right screen. If the box is minimized, just hit the orange arrow and that will enlarge it. You can use the audio of your computer. All you have to do is raise your hand, which is the little yellow icon, and we can unmute you and you can ask a question directly to Denny. or you also have the option of typing in your question right into the control panel, and Michelle will read it aloud for you. So two different options for questions.
We have one question already, so if people want to start typing theirs or raising their hands, I'll ask the first one from Carolee McCaskill. She asks, where do the eggs go once you get them in the spring? Right to the classroom? What happens in summer when teachers/students are out of school?
The eggs at this stage are hatched and they're now fried. They're released back into the water. They've hatched into the fry stage, or the alpin, then they go to the fry stage.
And then they're released before school's out, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay, she has a second question as well. What funding opportunities do you use for funding the Fish Friends program?
That's the Atlantic Salmon Conservation Foundation. They have funded through the New Brunswick province, the Quebec province, and the interprovincial. We've been accessing the interprovincial stream of funding to keep our Fish Friends program going.
Okay, I don't have any more right now, but we'll give people a couple minutes to type.
Maybe I'll use this little break as well to give a plug for our next webinar. Denny was mentioning Scotty boxes and how they can be used for the Fish Friends program potentially. And our next speaker, which is going to be on January the 13th, is Mark Heaton with the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources, and he's a Scotty box use expert. So the title of his talk is going to be Experiences Using In-Stream Incubators for Atlantic Salmon Eggs and In-Lake Trout Incubators for Trout Eggs. So this Scotty boxes are a tool that are just starting to get used in our region. And last time I spoke with him, he told me in Ontario they are popular in classrooms because you can buy clear versions of them, which let the students see the whole process as it's happening.
Just a minute, I've got another question, just hang on. I've lost my question window, just a second. Here we go. Okay, so Mike Coffin from PEI asks, great presentation. A girl in my lab used Scotty boxes for brook trout and they worked great. Would be happy to put you in touch if you would like. Also, I was wondering if there was any plan to expand to other provinces, example PEI where the salmon run is poor.
Unfortunately, no. We keep our work to our member communities, but we've always looking to grow in partnership with other organizations. And if you ever need any assistance with delivering a Fish Friends type project in your community, we'll be willing to help or give any type of guidance, I guess.
Okay. Antoine Rivière asks, have you developed other educational tools other than those existing in the curriculum of the Salmon Fish Friends program?
Well, the only right now our only salmon educational tools that we've used is the Fish Friends program, but we've developed the cultural salmon curriculum, but that has yet to be implemented.
Okay.
But it does have a number of new tools in it.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking example. I'm looking right here in my office right now at a beautiful poster that that GMRC produced, and I think it's a wonderful resource.
Oh well, actually, you talk about that. Yes, the salmon poster, but we also have the Blumwood documentary, and this Blumwood documentary is to showcase the relationship our member communities, so Ilverbar, Pavido, and Liswich, showcase their relationship with their salmon. So it's on our website. I wish I could put a link here, but if you search through our website, you can find the Blumwood documentary.
We can send
another good tool.
We can send out your website to people if they want that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Stephen Booth asks, thanks, Denny. Can you say a little bit more about how teachers and students are able to integrate MEK with the science side of these curricula?
Yes. Well, we teach each individual. For example, we had a group of students come to our Blumwood feast where they dissected a salmon, and the salmon was caught by the elder, and the elder opened up the salmon and they looked at all the contents. And then we had our biologist, Caroline Gillis, who was on site, who explained all the parts of the salmon. So that's another way that we bridge the two knowledge systems together.
Great. Mike Coffin just followed up his question, his talk about the Scotty boxes on PI, and he said he'll send you an email soon. Carolee McCaskill says, thanks, Denny. Great presentation. I will be in touch. I'm trying to get the Fish Friends program going in a local classroom for 2015. And then she says, one more question. Can I use the resources, access the resources that you use for the Fish Friends program, i.e. posters, handouts, materials, or do I need to make them up myself?
We have some resources available, but a lot of the resources come from the Fish Friends curriculum, but absolutely we can share any of the resources that we have.
Excellent. I don't have anything more right now, but we'll just wait a minute in case someone's typing.
Any other questions, Michelle?
No, I'm not seeing anything come up. No.
Okay, well, maybe we'll wrap up for the day then. Denny, thank you so much. This was an excellent presentation, really informative. And thank you to everyone for participating today. So just a little reminder that registration and listing of webinars coming up in the new year is available on both the Atlantic Salmon Conservation Foundation and the Canadian Rivers Institute websites. So thank you all, and we hope you'll join us again very soon.
Thank you very much for having me, Darla and Michelle.